Evening, everyone. Welcome to The Next Revolution. I'm Steve Hilton, and this is the home of positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community, and, of course, pro-America. With me live in Los Angeles for the hour, Tommy Lauren, Steve Moore, and Katrina Pearson. Plus, Jenna Ellis is here. Then actually, she's in D.C. There she is. And also tonight, President Trump praising Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can find out what that's about in my exclusive conversation with the governor. But first, over at the Jeff Bezos Post, they say democracy dies in darkness, but it's too late. You may have missed it, but I'm sorry to tell you that our democracy did in fact die this week. But thank God, MSDNC's Rachel Maddow was on hand to chronicle the sad demise of our great republic.
The Justice Department has been thrown into crisis and chaos. Institutions will not save you. Institutions will not save you. But what do we do next? What do we do? What do we do about it? How dangerous and bad this is. The alarms are ringing. Sound the alarm that way. And all of the alarms have sounded as the president rips these systems out by the root. This is something to save our country that must be stopped. Alarm sounded. We're awake. Seriously.
Seriously. Okay, it's actually that kind of hysterical ranting that threatens our democracy because it just hypes people up when we should be trying to come together to solve problems. In fact, if Rachel Maddow truly believes in protecting our democracy, and I believe she's sincere about that, she should be praising what happened this week. Here are the facts. This is the table the judiciary uses to calculate sentences. It is literally a points-based system. Last November, Roger Stone was convicted of 7 felony counts that together gave him 21 points on that table you see there. He's in column 1 because it's a first offence. 21 points means a sentencing guideline of 37 to 46 months, around 3 to 4 years. Now, prosecutors can add points for different circumstances. One of them is if a defendant threatened a witness with physical violence. That adds 8 points. Because Roger Stone told a witness that he should, quote, prepare to die, the prosecutors increased Stone's points total to 29, which means a sentence of 87 to 108 months, around 9 years. But this was a ridiculously literal interpretation of what was basically a joke. The witness, who was allegedly threatened, told the court he didn't take it seriously. Add to that the fact that the prosecutors making the recommendation had anti-Trump political backgrounds, and the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Timothy Shea, not Attorney General Barr, overruled the prosecutors and proposed a more lenient sentence. This is a vital fact left out of the whole establishment freak out over this. The decision to reduce the sentencing recommendation was made last week, not by AG Barr, and before anyone knew about it or tweeted about it. So then what happened? Well, according to DOJ sources cited by Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal, the 4 prosecutors didn't like being overruled, so they threatened to resign. In the face of that threat, U.S. Attorney Timothy Shea reversed his decision and went with the original 9-year recommendation. It was only at that point that Attorney General Barr intervened, not to make the decision himself, but simply to back the original judgment of the U.S. Attorney. Now, in the light of those facts, consider what politicians said last week.
His assault on the rule of law by engaging in political interference in the sentencing of his associate, Roger Stone, indicated an obstruction of investigation into Trump-Russia ties and witness tampering. AG Barr has deeply damaged the rule of law.
God, it's so ridiculous she could barely read the words out from her bit of paper. What actually happened here was the exact opposite of what she said. You had a politically motivated investigation, Mueller, initiated by Trump haters at the highest levels of our law enforcement bureaucracy, aimed at overturning an election result they disapproved of. The investigation failed to establish the central charge, Trump-Russia collusion, because it was fabricated. To try and show something for their years of work and millions of dollars, they prosecuted a handful of process crimes. In Roger Stone's case, it wasn't even a fair trial, with a jury forewoman who was politically biased against him. He was convicted, and then the sentence recommended by politically motivated prosecutors was way out of whack. If you want to see abuse of power, if you want to see the undermining of the rule of law, all you have to do is look at the last 3 years in which some of the most powerful institutions in our country, The FBI, the CIA, the Justice Department, the Congress have been corrupted to pursue a political vendetta, not by President Trump, but against him. Now, finally, we have an Attorney General who is standing up for the rule of law and impartial justice, free of political interference. And the President is fighting back against the resistance inside his administration. The establishment went nuts about that, too.
He fired Vindman and Sondland. He also threw in Vindman's brother. They said it was just awkward to keep them. That would prove to be a lie.
That caps a week of apparent impeachment revenge for President Trump.
As for no one being above the law, the fear now is the president is acting as if he is.
Even the president's former chief of staff, John Kelly, joined in, saying Vindman, quote, did exactly what we teach them to do from cradle to grave. What a joke. How long do you think John Kelly would have tolerated a soldier in his regiment who was actively trying to get him out? Kelly himself plotted and schemed to undermine President Trump's agenda, policies that were explicitly voted for in an election. He tried to stop him building the wall.
He's very definitely changed his attitude towards the DACA issue and even the wall once we briefed him.
Once we briefed him. Sorry, but who elected John Kelly to countermand an order from the voters? What arrogance! This brings us to the big takeaway from all of this. The sheer scale and shamelessness of the establishment's anti-democratic assault on Donald Trump's populist revolution. The president gets a lot of grief for his tweeting, and okay, fine, we could probably have done without some of it this week. But think about why he needs that direct communication. Think what he's up against. As we've noted many times, he's not an ideologue, he's a pragmatic, problem-solving businessman. In 2016, he made a bunch of promises, very specific. He got elected. He thinks, okay, now I need to get it done. But oh no, not with these jokers. Once he's in the White House, he's surrounded by people trying to stop him delivering his promises. Of course, internal disagreement is healthy. But in business, there's a saying, disagree, then commit. With those around this president, too often it was disagree, then resist. For Trump, getting elected was the easy part. The real battle was with the swamp once he got there. They blocked him, they investigated him, they frustrated him, from Congress to the courts to the federal bureaucracy to his own White House staff. The critics say, why does he give jobs to Jared and Ivanka? Because he can trust them to work for his agenda, not against it like the swamp people. And by the way, they're the ones actually getting things done. Like USMCA, along with Robert Lighthizer, the pro-worker, pro-family results that Ivanka Trump is helping to deliver. Attorney General Barr, too, a principled and courageous leader, and long may he stay. He is exactly what we need at the Justice Department. In a Trump second term, the president needs only people like this, only people committed to his agenda. Clear out the bureaucratic resistance, all of it. No more swamp stooges like James Mattis and H.R. McMaster. No more arrogant, entitled know-alls who think they have the right to block the policies 63 million Americans voted for and put in their place a failed, elitist, globalist disaster that nobody supports except the other swamp creatures they hang out with at Washington dinner parties. Fire them all. Drain the swamp, close down departments, blow up the bureaucracy, decimate the civil service. Literally, look it up. I mean literally decimate. More constitutionalist judges, more power to the states, more power to communities, above all, power to people. School choice, lower taxes, less regulation. It's called self-government. That's the next revolution we need, and that is the lesson of this week. Please follow us at Steve Hilton X and at NextRevFNC.